stay down. All right, let's wait. Let's get down on her. Let's get right here. Let's start right neutral. So in terms of modifications, if when I'm doing spine work, you can always do things on your hands and knees. And if your wrist doesn't feel great, you can always do things on your stomach. So, but again, do what works for your body. Let's start with our breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Inhale. And exhale. Taking the time to lengthen through the top of the head. And if you want to, on the exhale, to round the spine a little bit, you can. We're not going to roll down yet, but feel free to just allow the spine to move if it feels comfortable for you. Inhale, thinking about your posture. Exhale, kind of relaxing into it. And then for this next breath, on the exhale, we're going to round the spine and roll down. Inhale, you're in neutral spine. So we have our hips here and my rib cage here. And then on the exhale, we'll imprint. And what that does is it brings the hips and ribs closer to each other. So you can see my hand kind of gently move towards each other. Inhale to neutral. They return to their original distance. Small space under the lower back. Exhale, imprints. You don't have to actually touch your hip in your rib cage. I'm just demonstrating what imprint is when the lower back touches the mat on the exhale. Inhale, return to neutral. Exhale, imprints. Inhale, neutral. And exhale, imprint. Let's lift the legs up to tabletop. So knees are right over the hips, shins parallel to the floor. Exhale, we'll keep the knees at 90 degrees. We'll keep the lower back in imprint as we tap the toes down, one at a time. Exhale to lower, inhale to lift. Exhale, lower, inhale. The challenge here is in maintaining the imprint while the leg lowers. A little more on each side. Take your time. Work with the breath. Exhale, lower, inhale, lift. And both legs will go down now. And you don't have to go all the way to the floor. So here I'm showing about halfway down. Maintaining that imprint. Or exhale all the way to the floor. Inhale to lift. It's always a little more challenging to move both legs. So pay attention to that imprint. Exhale, lower, inhale, lift. Couple more. Go ahead and lower your feet all the way down to the mat. You can pull your heels in a little bit closer for your shoulder bridge. Starting with your tailbone on the floor, we're in neutral. Exhale, lift the tailbone by pushing through your feet, squeezing the glutes. Reaching those knees away from the shoulders. Don't forget about your abs also staying engaged. Inhale at the top. Exhale, slowly lower down. One vertebra at a time. Inhale. Exhale. Rolling up. Articulating through the spine. So at the peak of your position, the weight should be in your shoulder blades. If you wanted to lift your head, you should be able to. Inhale. Exhale. Lower down. Inhale. Exhale. Glutes engaged, abs engaged. If we didn't engage our abs as we're shoving the hips up, we could arch our back, and we don't want to do that. We want to protect that lower back. So keep those abs engaged. Inhale, exhale, roll on down. And one more. Going into ab prep, nod the chin, look towards your knees. Exhale, the fingertips toward the toes. Inhale, hold. Exhale, lower back down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, hold. Exhale, release. We're lifting just until the shoulder blades come up. Protect your neck by keeping the chin nodded, looking toward your knees. We're going to go into our hundreds, which is the pumping of the arms. Keep the arms nice and straight as you pump. And there are several leg positions. Go ahead and hold this up. And keep your legs as is on the floor. Legs together, tabletop, straight or on the diagonal. Pick your leg position and we pump. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 10, inhale. Exhale, 20, inhale. Exhale, 30, inhale. Exhale, 40, eyes stays on the kneecaps, exhale. 50, inhale. Keep reaching with those fingers, exhale. 60, inhale. Exhale. 70, inhale. Exhale. 80, hold on to that imprint. Exhale. 90, last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knees bent. Lower the head, neck, and shoulders. Lower the feet. Before we flip over on our stomach, I'm going to have us do a hip release. So with the abs still engaged, we're going to release the hip by dropping one knee off to the side. Just let gravity take hold of it. Inhale, slide the leg out. Exhale, return to neutral alignment and drag the foot in. Good, same side. Let the hip release, let the knees fall out. So you're going from external rotation, turning in medially to neutral. It's a little bit of friction as you drag the feet, so feel engagement in the abs here. But this is mostly just to get sort of range of motion in that hip. Okay, back leg, let the knee fall away. And you can't really see my leg here. I'm basically just letting gravity grab a hold of it. And my whole body's not tilting. It's just whatever range of motion you have for your knee falling off to the side as your pelvis stays in neutral. Inhale. Exhale, drag it back in. Last time, inhale. Exhale, good. All right, now we're going to flip over into our stomach. And as I said before, if you don't want to be on your stomach, which is totally fine, you can be on your hands and knees. And you can do opposite limbs or same, just the legs. For our spine warm up, we have our forearms on the floor. We're going to keep the chin tucked as I use my spine muscles to lift the chest. So head and neck travel with the chest. Head and neck stay aligned with the thoracic spine. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. So we have our lumbar spine down here and our thoracic spine up here. So we are creating a curve in the lumbar spine as we lift that chest off the floor. Gentle pressure into the forearms. And trying really hard not to look up. There's nothing interesting to see around here anyways. Inhale, lift, warming up the muscles around the spine. So the forearms are here to assist. Press into them as needed. If you don't need the forearms to assist, reach the arms back. Reach those arms toward the toes. And feel your shoulder blades slide towards each other a little bit more. Feel free to squeeze your leg muscles. Engage those legs. Just because they're on the mat doesn't mean they're disengaged and inactive. So squeeze those leg muscles. And it kind of helps you anchor more so that you can maybe lift your chest a little higher off the mat. Okay? And then the final version, if you want to try this, these are all options, is stacking the hands under the forehead, giving some resistance to your spine muscles. So this is the most challenging because we're now lifting the weight of the arms. Give me 3 more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. You can lift as high when your hands are stuck under your forehead, but that's not what that's about. All right, sit back and give yourself a little stretch here. So rounding the spine, all right, separating the shoulder blades and getting into that stretch. So we're going to stay up vertically for a little bit. So imagine a straight line from the shoulders, hips, shoulders. So did you notice I said shoulders as I pointed my knees? So I usually go this way. It's knees, hips, shoulders, ears. So straight line here. We use the arms to help assist with the movements as a counterbalance. And if you can notice, I reach my arms forward. I'm kind of separating my shoulder blades, right? Protraction. And it looks like my arms are shorter. I'm retracting my shoulder blades. You really want to try not to accidentally protract your shoulder blades while we're doing this, because there's a tendency as we lean back that people want to counterbalance by reaching forward. So do your best to keep your shoulder blades in neutral or even slightly retracted. Brace the abs, squeeze the butt, have everything nice and tight. As you exhale, hinge back at the knees. All right, so there is one joint that's moving right now, and is the knee joint going from 90 degrees to less than 90 degrees. And you can decide where or how far you want to go back. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And this is sort of similar to the half roll back in the sense that we're leaning back, but this is in a really strong, straight, stable alignment position. We're staying in neutral, whereas in half roll back, we intentionally go into a spine flexion, C curve. Good. To add a little bit of challenge here, you can lower one arm. So you have less arm counterbalancing forward. It feels a little different. Feels a little more challenging. Ugh, I can really feel it. So all I did was lower an arm. Can you imagine if we lifted it? It'd be harder. We're not going to go there today. But just by changing arm positions greatly affects the challenge or intensity felt by the movement. All right, we're going to go into a seated position here. So for half rollbacks, we are going to go into a C curve. There are different versions of half rollbacks. One is you can stay hinged, just like we did, but obviously it doesn't involve the hip joint because we're not on our knees anymore. So if you wanted to work on hinging, you can, or we're going to do spine flexion, C curve. So again, notice my arms reach forward. It helps to counterbalance the movement. Exhale, I draw my abdominals in like I'm going to roll down. My lower back gets really close to the floor, but it doesn't quite touch. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, half roll back. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale. I'm going to add variations to the arms. This is our, what I would say, our basic. And by basic, I don't mean easy. It's just the original movement. And then from there, we add variations to it. So feel free to stick with this. Anchor those toes. Keep the feet on the ground. I'm going to go back and I'm going to stay back. So a little bit of endurance here. And I'm going to pulse my arms. So you can, if you want, you can keep your hands in neutral or you can pat the waters like we did for hundreds. So I'm going to start by patting the water or patting something. And I'm just going to take my hand wider and wider. So I'm not going to change anything about my spine position, but the intensity is going to increase as I bring my arms out wider and wider. It's like I have a dog here and a dog here, and I'm patting each of the dogs on the head, and then I'm going to bring it forward again. So the intensity eases up, and then I'm going to sit up and inhale and lengthen. I want you to just keep breathing, alternating the breath as you do the patting. It's like short exhales, almost like the hundreds breathing. So inhale here, exhale back. Inhale, you can inhale for 5 counts. You can exhale for 5 counts. So basically keep breathing. There is never a time where you're holding your breath. And you can decide how far back you want to bring the arms. I wouldn't go too far back behind the body here. Again, endurance of those abdominals and a little bit of work in the shoulders. Good. And then let's bring it up. So one more variation here before we roll all the way down. We're going to go back. And I'm going to extend the front leg and lift the back arm. So it looks like that. And then lower. That's on the exhale. Inhale here. Exhale. The front arm and the back leg. And then we're going to sit up. Okay, a little bit more endurance. And then just adding some variation with the limbs. Exhale. Come back. Inhale, we hold. Exhale. Lift back arm, front leg. It's okay, they don't have to stay perfectly parallel. Inhale here, exhale the other limbs. You can actually reach your arm as vertical by the ears as possible. Legs will probably stay on the diagonal. Inhale, exhale, come up. How are we doing? Should we try that one more time? Okay, it's kind of a newer version, so I will do that one more time just to kind of get the hang of it here. Exhale, roll back. Let's switch up the order. I'm going to do the front arm and the back leg on the exhale. Inhale to lower. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, sit up. Inhale, take a breath, and exhale, roll all the way down. Before I roll up, I'm just going to keep my knees bent here. Inhale, reach the arms to the ceiling, nod the chin. Exhale, as you start to lift your spine, straighten your legs, shoot those heels away from your hips, and then dive forward. Inhale here. Exhale, roll down nice and slowly. We'll just do 3 more of these, not too many today. Inhale. I drag my heels back in, but feel free to keep your legs straight if you like. Inhale here. Exhale, shoot. I like this variation because like the moment I shoot my legs, it like really activates my quadriceps, and it kind of just reminds me to keep my quads nice and active while I'm doing the roll up, because you do want your legs active. Good. Again, if you want to keep your legs straight, go ahead. Here's what it looks like. Squeeze your quadriceps up. And you roll up smoothly. Dive. Feel the stretch in the hamstring, calves, lower back, and upper back. And if you're bending your knees, draw your heels in. And last time. Okay. So we did a hip opening, hip release earlier like this. And so we're going to just do a leg circle to once again reinforce the openness of the hips. So back leg stays still, so it is not going to drop to the side. And the front leg is going to go out and circle down as far as I can to the side without disturbing my body. So this means if my body's rocking, I've gone too far. And I'm going to exhale on the way up. So inhale at the 12 o'clock. Exhale at the 6 o'clock. Trying to find the greatest range of motion we can in these hips without disturbing the rest of our body. Abdominals are here to stabilize. One more time in this direction and reverse direction across the midline. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Try to keep the leg as straight as can be. Work the quads and hip flexors and stretch the hamstring. The last one. Inhale. Exhale. Put the knee in, relax it, and just roll those ankles a couple times in each direction. The goal of leg circles is to create challenge to your abdominals. It makes it harder to stabilize your body when you have this long lever circling around you. Big range of motion. You can always keep the circle smaller. You can always move slower. So I'm going to go out to the side. This is my right leg. I have more range of motion in the hips and more flexibility in the hamstring. So you might notice that my circle is a little bigger on the side. And that's okay. We're all a little bit asymmetrical. Exhale. Sweep. Inhale to lower. Keep those abs nice and tight. Stay imprinted. Last time in this direction. So feel good to increase that range of motion in the hips. Reverse direction. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Give me 2 more. And last one. Good. Hug the knee in and just roll those ankles out. Even though the ankles aren't directly connected to our core muscles, which are the muscles are attached to the pelvis and spine, you still want to make sure your ankle has good range of motion. We're going to go into our ab series. You can keep the head, neck, and shoulders down for this if you'd like. We're going to extend one leg, inhale to switch, extend the other. The lower the extension toward the floor, the more challenge it is for that imprint. If you want to lift the head, neck, and shoulders, you can bring it up. You can also keep the head, neck, and shoulders down and try to work in more of a neutral spine. It does add a level of challenge to it. And you don't have to point your toes. You can push the heel out. You want a little bit more of a calf stretch. Good. I'm going to just give some options for arms. So again, whether your head and neck and shoulders are down or up, you can be hands on the floor, hands close to the floor, and then try raising your arms up. Just changing the position of the arms. Not moving it, just holding it there. So if your head, neck, and shoulders are down, it's right over your shoulders. And then another variation is start to bring it a little closer to the ears. And then this is what it would look like if your head, neck, and shoulders were lifted. I haven't changed anything about the legs yet. Still doing single leg stretch. Just some arm variations. Good, now let's take the hands behind the head and add that rotation. Exhale towards that bent knee. Inhale as you transition and exhale to rotate. Give me 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm not going to go straight into double leg stretch. I'm going to actually go into scissors. So from bent knee, straighten up the legs and split. Again, head, neck, and shoulders can be down or up. Use those arms to gently guide the leg towards your head for a nice hamstring stretch. But don't forget about the abs. And then once again, this is an option where your arms are going, right? Supporting the legs. We're going to sort of play around with the positions of the arms again. Okay, it is more challenging when you let the legs go. And again, you can do this with your head, neck, and shoulders down. So arms low. Arms overhead, over the shoulders, vertical, I should say. And then arm by the ears. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we just did 4 switches for each arm position. Didn't do too many because we were doing a lot. We haven't done double leg stretches, so I'm going to go into that right now. Just give yourself a little break. Give myself a little break. So here, double leg stretch. You're already familiar with this. We extend the arms and legs away from each other on any diagonal you like. So again, the arms are pretty much low, and then they go over kind of by the ears. All right, so we've already been kind of trying that with our arm variations for single leg stretch and scissors. So here is your basic. Double leg stretch. Nothing too fancy here. Good, give me 4 more. Exhale, inhale, return. Last 2. Last one. All right, good. So let's give our abs a break and come onto our stomach. So let's make sure our feet are at least shoulder distance apart. Squeezing the glutes. So we're definitely going to lift up the legs. And it's always good to have your quads and glutes already engaged before you lift the legs so that it's prepared to lift nice and straight. All right, so we're going to reach those arms forward on the narrow X. And we're going to lift right arm and left leg. And you should feel your rear deltoids back here engaged as you lift the arm straight. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. As I lift an arm, since it's connected to my chest through the shoulders, there's a slight lifting of the chest, which means my head and neck will travel and lift off the floor to stay aligned with that chest. All right, it doesn't mean I'm looking up. I'm still looking at the floor. But it also means my nose is not glued to the floor. Feel free to keep alternating, or I'm going to lift all 4 limbs. Good. As you're lifting up think also out. So I'm reaching those fingertips as far away from the toes as possible. At the same time I'm lifting up, I'm also lifting away from the center of my body, really stretching out there. Trying to keep my leg as straight as possible and my arm as straight as possible. Last two. And last one. Okay, so those hit all the muscles in our posterior chain. So anything on the back side of the body, from rear deltoids to spine to glutes, even little hamstrings. Those are all muscles that are important for our posture. We haven't done a plank yet. Ooh, let's do a plank. So I'm gonna do a plank on my wrist so we can do some movement with the legs. Feel free to do plank on your elbows and hold without movement of any kind. Basically, anytime I do a plank, you can do any version of plank that you want, or you can not do a plank and do whatever you want to do. All right, so I have my feet about hip distance apart. My wrists are directly under the shoulders. I'm looking for that straight line through shoulders, hips, knee, and ankle. See, I'm so used to saying my shoulders first. We're not going to move my pelvis or butt, right? So I'm trying to imagine there's like a cup of coffee on there. We're not going to spill it. I'm going to pull my front knee towards the front elbow. So right knee to the right elbow. And I'm going to bring it right knee to the left elbow. See, I have range of motion on my hips. See how my leg is just kind of pendulum swinging underneath? But my butt and pelvis isn't moving. So now lift the left knee toward the left arm. Take it to the right knee. Return it back to pointing the left knee. And then return back to the high plank. So knee goes in. It goes across. There might be a little rotation, but the goal is that you're not rotating too much. You should have enough range of motion in that hip socket to move the knee without moving the butt too much. Last time, keep alternating the breath. Exhale, inhale, exhale, and inhale. Okay. That should have been not just intense for the transverse abdominis and your hip flexor, but also you feel it in your arms. We're going to lie on our side. So we're going to do some exercises lying on our side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to prop ourselves up and prop ourselves up even more. So the first version is completely down on our side. And if you prefer lying on your side for all of it, then stay there. Use the edge of your mat so you're straight. Okay? Kickstand hand. Should feel a little unstable when you lift the arm. That's how you know you're in the right position. This is me not stroking myself. This is me showing that there's the seam on the side of my clothes, and that's where you want to lie on. All right, sorry about that. Inhale, point lift. Exhale, flex lower. Let's just set up our sideline leg lift by making sure we're in the right position with our basic leg lift movement pattern. So if you have the kneecaps face forward, you can see all 5 of my toenails, including the pinky one. When I externally rotate my leg, you can see that my kneecap faces up and my pinky toenail disappears. So we don't want that pinky toenail to disappear from our view. Okay, hold the leg up at hip height, parallel to the floor, and make small little circles, small and slow. There's 2. Here's the 3rd. Very small. There's 4. 5, reverse direction. Inhale for 1 circle. Exhale for the next. 3, 4, and 5. Good. We're going to kick the leg forward. When you kick the leg forward, feel free to put a little more pressure into the hands. But we're trying not to pike the butt back. See, we keep the leg parallel to the floor as you reach it forward. So I'm going to add one extra little element to this. You're going to lift it forward, and kick it forward. You're going to tap it to the floor in front, lift it back to hip height, and return. Use those abs here. Swing it forward as far as you can. Feel the hamstring stretch. Tap down, lift, and return. Now, don't view the tap down as like, oh, I let the leg fall and collapse. Your muscles are engaged the whole time. It's a very deliberate lowering, not putting any pressure into the leg, just tap the floor, make contact like it's a hot floor, and then you return. So you're not ever resting that leg. This is just, once again, getting range of motion in the hips. Maybe 3 more here. Exhale, inhale, lower, exhale, lift to no higher than hip height, and return. Keep alternating the breath. Last one. All right, good. Go ahead and pull your knees forward and bend it. Your feet should still be along the back edge of the mat, aligned with the rest of your body. We'll do some clamshells here. So if you keep the feet together and open up the knees, don't really need a kickstand hand anymore. Exhale. And then for a variation of that, right now your feet are on the same, aligned with your bottom hip. We're going to align your feet to the top hip. And then clamshell continues with your feet just at a different anchor point. Do 2 more. Hopefully your outer thighs and glute medius are feeling it. And before we switch sides, I'm going to try to do it propped. So involving more shoulders, a little bit more obliques. Okay? You sometimes it's harder to keep your body straight like this because you just really want to fall back when you're propped. So feel free to bend the bottom knee just a little bit. We're doing our best to try to still maintain that straight line. Don't collapse into the shoulder. Don't collapse into the obliques. So lift here in the obliques and lift through the shoulders. It helps reach the top arm up. Okay, the top leg is straight. The bottom leg can be bent. Inhale, point, lift. Exhale, flex, lower. This changes the feeling of the leg lift because your upper body is propped up. If your shoulder gets fatigued or bothers your elbows to be propped up, then go ahead and lay back down and then lift back up when you're ready. Inhale, point, lift. Exhale, flex, lower. 2 more. Last one. Little circles. Lift it up. 5 in each direction. 1, 2. Don't forget down here, obliques 3, 4. Keep the kneecaps and all 5 toenails facing forward. Reverse for 5, 4. This is kind of like pulsing. Don't worry if the circle is not a perfect circular shape. 2, 1. From here, we kicked forward. This is a little more challenging with your propped up, right? You don't have all this stabilization from the floor. But if your bottom knee is slightly bent, which mine is, it does help a lot. Okay, add that little tap down. So you bring it forward, lower, lift, and return. It's like parallel forward, lower down hip height, back to hip height, return. Get a lot of shoulder girdle endurance here. Endurance. All right, you should really be feeling it here. Let's do 1 more. I think that was 7 or 8. I think 8. Good. You can do clamshell here in this position as well. You don't have to keep your arm up. It just reminds you to stay lifted out of your shoulder. If you can remember to stay lifted out of your shoulder and lift it through the obliques, then you can do whatever you want with this arm. Keep the foot connected, open up at the hip. This is external rotation. Kneecaps face forward, kneecap face up. And let's try moving the feet up. Yes, this is definitely going to be a little bit more here. Oh, I just cramped up. Oh my gosh. It's intense. Three more. Okay, gosh. Oh, stretch. Actually, let's do a stretch. Do the stretch. Get off the lay on your back. So this is the leg we just worked because it's the top leg. I'm gonna do the other side though. I'm just gonna do a quick stretch, mostly because I cramped up. Hopefully we are all doing well. You can always stop and stretch if you cramp up. Stop and take water. I know I don't demonstrate myself drinking water ever during this class. Well, I talk the whole time. But don't worry, I do drink a lot before and after class. So, here we go. Oh, I almost lost my balance there. Inhale, point lift. Exhale, flex lower. We are on the other side. I hope everyone has switched sides. We are back on the mats and we will prop ourselves up later. So if you notice, the propped up movements are the same as the lying down movements. And I did that on purpose so you can sort of compare the same exercises and how it feels when you're propped up versus when you're down. Two more. Again, watching that rotation, keeping the kneecaps facing forward. All right, and you're going to point and hold and make the smallest circles you can. 2, 3, very, very slow. 4, and 5, reverse for 5, 4, abs braced here. I just have a few fingers for a kickstand. I generally don't put too much pressure into the hand here. All right, usually the circling is what really gets the outer thighs fatigued. And then by not letting the leg lower down to the mats or rest on the bottom leg, but instead kicking it forward, keeping it hip height, just continues the work of the outer thighs. Remember to keep your spine in neutral as much as you can. So we're not rounding the lumbar spine as we kick the leg forward. It's better to have a small range of motion and keep the spine in neutral than to have a bigger range of motion where it involves your lumbar back. You should also feel a nice hamstring stretch as you kick forward with the leg straight. This is my tighter leg. So let's add the tap down. Keep the leg straight and controlled. Tap the floor as if it's really hot. Put no weight on the floor. Don't rest the leg. I mean, rest it if you need to, but that's not the goal. It's because we want to work that leg within the hip socket joint. Do 2 more of this with my spectacular counting. Again, the reason I'm not too concerned about counting is we all move at different paces anyways. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like they have to, keep up with my pace if it's too fast for them. So base it on feel. How does it look? Okay, so that's it for the straight legs, and then we're gonna go into our clamshell. So you bend your knees forward. I can feel my feet is right next to the edge because I felt the edge and then I moved forward a little bit. And then I already placed my butt and the rest of my spine and head and arms next to the back edge of the mat. So I know I'm aligned. And that's a really quick way of making sure you're aligned by using the mat's edge. And this side is really tired. Let's put my left leg. Okay, lift the feet. It's kind of a hard judgment call, but I mean, you don't want to look at your feet the whole time, but you kind of want to maybe glance once and figure out that your feet are at hip height and no higher, and then hopefully it stays in space. Or if you're looking at your video can very much be like a mirror. It shows you what you look like and what you're doing, so you can see that your feet aren't, like if I'm opening up like this and my feet are constantly moving, like that's not the goal. A couple more, and then we're done. No, we're not. We are going to prop ourselves up. So in effort of being symmetrical, we have to do on the second side what we did on the first side. I'm going to bend my bottom leg again, just like I did on the first side. I'm going to lift through my bottom oblique, strong through the shoulder, and I'll just keep my arm up for the first few at least. Inhale, point lift, exhale, flex, lower. Again, it's a little more challenging when you're propped up to lift the leg past hip height. So most people here don't want to lift the leg past hip height, but when you're lying completely down, it's really easy to get the leg lifted too high. You want to watch the range of motion so you can work in the most effective range. Sometimes too much range is you lose effectiveness. So one more. We have a question. Keep going. Oh gosh. Hey sister. My sister joined today. I don't know when the last time she took one of my classes. Where was I? Let's do little circles. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Again, you don't have to keep the arm up, but remember to stay lifted through that shoulder. Good. Reverse for 5, 4, 3, 2. We're going into the forward kicks. Maybe it's helpful to have the kicks down, arm forward. But again, bending that bottom knee slightly is actually very helpful. You still feel quite a lot of abs. So don't feel like you're cheating when that bottom knee is bent. Doing my best to keep my leg as parallel to the floor and hip height the whole time. Let's do the tuck down. Lower, lift, return. If in doubt, do it slower. Do not feel like you're dropping the leg, right? It's like you're gently, gingerly placing it on the floor, and then the moment your foot touches the floor, you change your mind. Oh, no, I don't want to put my foot down. It's going back up. When I turn my leg, it's just aligned. It's not kicking behind my body. Just straight line here. Starting to feel on the shoulder a little bit. So it's a lot of work for the shoulder. It takes work to maintain lifted throughout. Let's do one more. And then we just have to do our clamshells. So here, I'm going to bend my bottom knee a little bit more. If you need to break or you want to go back down on the mat, please do so. It's fine. So here is our clamshell. Thing that you might notice is sometimes the neck is a little tired here too, and try my best to kind of keep it aligned, but you don't want to drop your head like this too. Just try to keep the head up. But I get that neck can be also a limiting factor, and you might want to lay back down on the ground. I'm really terrible about counting right now. Let's go ahead and lift the feet. Hope I don't cramp on this side. You can open up the knee as much as you can. It's just about keeping the feet the same place in space. I'm only moving the top leg. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's lie our back and stretch that leg that we just moved. Usually a teaser, sort of, well, it looks kind of like a teaser variation, but not quite. Then we'll do some teasers. So feel free to keep stretching if you need. We are back to lying on the ground, knees bent, feet hip distance apart. All right, so your hands are on the floor. We're going to raise it up to the ceiling. You're going to lift just one leg, tabletop. Good. When you extend the leg onto the high diagonal, you're going to crunch up and reach with your arms to about parallel. And we're not going to roll all the way up, because if we did and we're on our tailbone, that would look like a teaser. So this is just kind of a teaser prep. Return here and lower. Let's try the other side. So lift. It's almost as if the arms and legs are connected to each other. So when I lift my arms, I pull the knee up. And when I straighten the leg, it pulls my arm and upper body up. Then I return. Feel free to do this as slowly as you need to. There's a little bit of coordination here. Arms and legs. Extend. Return. And we'll lift. And you can do this and extend like that without crunching the upper body if you want. If your neck is like tired. So let's try rolling all the way up if we can. It might involve not having our knees bent as much. So this is going to be kind of a trial and error for the first one to get our feet properly set. But we lift here, and then exhale, reach and roll. And then keep your leg out there so you can control the rolling back. Pull the knee in, and then down. If you remember the half roll back that I did at the beginning of class, we kind of also got into this position. Inhale here. Exhale. Extend the leg, reach and roll. Oh, you can bend here again if your hamstrings are tight. Absolutely. And then you do want to extend again, just like we do for teasers, to help counterbalance the rolling back. And then we're here with our arms vertical and our leg in tabletop, and then return. Inhale. Exhale. It's actually, we should probably crunch up first and then extend. And see how my foot slid? And like, allow that to happen, because you might get stuck otherwise coming up if you don't allow that foot to slide. And then if you kept your leg straight, keep it there as you roll back, or straighten the leg again as you roll down. Return to tabletop and lower. Good. Inhale. Then neck and shoulders up. Exhale. This is our teaser variation of the day. Roll on down. Return. All right. In the interest of time, because it is 6:50, I just want to finish on our hands and knees. So getting the wrist underneath the shoulder, knees under the hips. We're going to do an extension. Inhale. Find length from fingertip to the toes. Exhale. Bring the elbow joint and knee joint towards each other. Don't worry if they don't touch. Create flexion in your spine. Inhale again. Lengthen. And return hand and knee to floor. On the exhale, inhale, lengthen the other two opposing limbs. Exhale, bring the joints towards each other, flex the spine, create roundness in the spine. Inhale to find length in that neutral spine again, and then exhale, return. One more time on each side. Inhale, lengthen, exhale. crunch, inhale, reach, exhale, realign the wrist under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And last time here, inhale, exhale, inhale, and return. Give yourself a nice little stretch one more time. Round the spine, inhale to arch the back. And thank you all for joining me. That was Pilates. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself.